Thanks for taking the time to listen to our latest content here on the Blood Red channel. Guy here with just a quick message. Do you want the very latest Liverpool FC news directly into your inbox? Well, then sign up to our daily LFC newsletter, which will bring you the breaking news and big events from around Anfield. To subscribe, just go to bit.ly/LFC newsletter. That's bit.ly/LFC newsletter, or click the link in the description of this podcast and pop in your email address. It really is that simple. That link once more, bit.ly/LFC newsletter. Well, thanks for your time, and on with the podcast.
This is the Blood Red podcast from the Liverpool Echo.
Well, it's Derby week, but with a twist. Just 6 more days to wait until Liverpool are back in Premier League action on today, the date that Mohamed Salah turns 28. We've plenty to get into. So on the Blood Red podcast, I'm Guy Clarke. Alongside me, our Liverpool correspondent Paul Gorst and Dan Kay. Gentlemen, how are we both?
Good. I just had a week off, come back refreshed over the weekend, and glad to be back on the pod. I think it's the first one I've done for that, because I think I might have had a Friday on, maybe a Monday, so glad to be back on duty.
Good to have you.
Same here. I think it's my first pod for a little while also, but feels no better time to be getting back into it. Started Derby week, the sun's shining, and finally we're very close to having some actual football talk to get our teeth stuck into, so happy days, yeah.
Yeah, as I say, right at the top of it, it's Derby week. It very much is with a twist. We know there's going to be no fans at Goodison. We still don't know, obviously, if it's the game in which Liverpool can secure the title, Gorsty. But I suppose the whole week, the whole feeling for it is now everybody's just itching and waiting for Sunday to come round.
Exactly, yeah. I've written a piece for the site, which is going on later on today, and I think it's almost just kind of like an overview of the last 3 months, and so much has happened. Absolutely none of it's been on the pitch, but you think of the Liverpool's furlough decision, the Henderson starting the Players Initiative, the donation of the wages for the NHS, the community work that the club have done off the pitch, the Black Lives Matter stuff last month. So much has gone on. And now finally, after such a long while, we're getting round to talking about who's going to be playing left back, who's going to be the centre mid, who's going up front, actual tangible footy talk. And it's great to finally be able to have this discussion, isn't it? After so much of talking about other things that are very serious, but finally the less important stuff, should we say, if the actual footy comes back and we can all get stuck into it. I can't wait.
Yeah, what was it, Dan? The 7th of March, was it? Bournemouth came to Anfield, the 11th, Atletico Madrid. So we're well over 3 months since that date, and even those pictures that came out last week of Blackburn Rovers being at Anfield, just Liverpool being back in action against the side wearing a different jersey, it just felt, I suppose, exciting, probably the word.
Absolutely. I mean, it feels like a lifetime, or several lifetimes in some ways. The esteemed Jed Ray, one of Liverpool's official statisticians, tweeted this morning that it is now 100 days today since Liverpool played their last game, which is the longest period they've ever not played football. Obviously, even taking into account close seasons till the big freeze of 1962-63, which is even before my time. So it's been a very, very unusual period, and obviously, our thoughts and are very much with those who've been very, directly affected and who've lost people during this terrible pandemic. And football still in many ways seems albeit in comparison to that, but as has always been the case, as Jurgen Klopp has said many times, football is the most unimportant thing of the world. It provides a very welcome diversion from the stresses and strains of everyday life at the best of times. And I think we're all kind of ready for it. I think we've all got our heads around how it's going to be. I mean, at the start of it, I was very much with my supporters hat on, thinking, well, I don't care if I've got to wait a year. I don't want any football until we can all get back into the ground. But it's just not practical. It's just not feasible in a business sense, but also I think in terms for the clubs themselves. I mean, we all saw what happened to Tranmere Rovers last week, who've been relegated very harshly from League One, and that's probably a 1,000,001 podcast in itself, that tale. But the reality is the business, the infrastructure of football needs to get going, because it's not just, as some of the more harsher critics might say, about it's not just about the game itself. It's people's livelihoods. The clubs play an really important part in communities, not just in terms of what they do between 3 o'clock and 5 o'clock on a Saturday afternoon, but week in, week out. So seeing the wheel starting to grind into motion again, and as it's starting to happen, is a very, very welcome sight, I think, for many people.
Yeah, those joining us on YouTube, we're going to talk all about Mohamed Salah coming up. But if you've any questions you want to put to either Gorsty or Dan, write in the comment section, and we will certainly get into a number of those questions. But Gorsty, on it being Derby week, this is so often the time, and we were in the throes of it actually before the lockdown came in, before we all started working from home, of getting excited for this derby, the one at Goodison. Are Liverpool going to win that first league title in 30 years at Goodison? The whole build up to it for the whole week, it's often a very nervy affair. But this time around, as I said with Dan, I think it is more just complete excitement actually that the football's going to be back, and intrigue as to what the atmosphere is going to be like at Goodison.
Yeah, 100%, Guy. I think, normally Liverpool fans a little bit on tenterhooks about travelling to Everton. It's usually it's one of the most intimidating atmospheres for any club, never mind that, their most fierce rivals and Liverpool's as well. So it's going to be completely different this time around, I think, for a couple of reasons. Obviously, Liverpool not really worried that a stumble is going to affect them in terms of winning the title. We all know that at some point between now and is at the end of July that Liverpool will pick up those 6 points needed to become champions for the first time in 30 years. So there's no real worry of a spanner being thrown in the works at Goodison Park long term. So there is that. And then there's also the fact that, there's been nothing to kind of get excited about for 3 months from a football perspective. So if Liverpool were playing, I don't know, Liverpool could play anyone and the excitement would be there. So, and you just throw in the fact that it is a Merseyside derby, I don't think there'll be any apprehension at all. I think it will just be full steam ahead. Liverpool fans will be looking forward to it so much, from obviously behind the sofa, in front of the TV, wherever they choose to watch it this weekend. And it will just be a massive occasion, even allowing for the fact that there won't be anyone in a stadium that holds 40,000. It's just going to be a momentous occasion. One for the history books, you'd suggest. I don't know, but I wouldn't have thought that any other Merseyside derby has been played behind closed doors before. So this is the first in 236 games where it will be played without any fan there. So yeah, certainly one for the history books, and it could actually be the one where Liverpool win the league. So what odds would you have got on that back in August? I don't know.
No, absolutely bizarre. But as you say, with 8 games to go, I think the earliest a Premier League title has ever been won is with 5 games to spare. Dan, Liverpool could conceivably do it with 8. I know on Friday we're going to talk all about at great detail the derby, but just sort of it is one of those facts that immediately does sort of spring to mind.
Yeah, I mean, and it's very easily lost in all this that, it's not just about Liverpool are ending this long wait for this holy grail of a 19th league title, but it was due to be wrapped up in record time and may yet still be. You always kind of think to yourself, in some ways, you measure it almost in kind of the calendar rather than the actual number of games. And I can not remember too many teams wrapping it. Well, I can't ever remember it being wrapped up in March. I remember City's 100-point season a couple of years ago. That could have been done in mid-April, and they ended up, if you remember, losing a 2-goal lead to Manchester United, but they could have actually sealed it against the biggest rivals. That was the match in between the 2 Champions League quarterfinals when we knocked them out. But it's an incredible prize in front of Liverpool. And obviously, whether Liverpool can clinch against Everton depends on how your boys on Wednesday night do, Arsenal. So in some ways, it is kind of out of Liverpool's own hands. But I don't know if that will make an enormous amount of difference in terms of how they approach the game. It's the first game back. They will all be mentally and physically refreshed. After this break, when I think we did see some signs of fatigue and just the incredible intensity they put into the last 2 years of football. In maybe I think that Liverpool lost four out of the last 6 games before the suspension. I think it was something in all competitions. I think it was something like that. So whether the league is wrapped up with Everton or not, Liverpool will massively be wanting to go in there, put a statement down, keep the incredible record they've got against Everton going. Remember it's coming on for 10 years. October 2010 was the last time Everton won a derby anywhere. So whether Liverpool can actually clinch it or not on Sunday isn't the biggest issue. I don't think the most important thing is going out there performing, and hopefully giving give the watching public a good game to enjoy, but from a Liverpool point of view, giving us all bragging rights and the chance to enjoy another victory and another good result over the Blues, hopefully.
Well, one man then who has given Liverpool plenty of reason to celebrate and celebrate plenty of victories and his goals besides is Mohamed Salah. Today turns 28 at the peak of his powers. Obviously, should have been at the end of his third year at Anfield. But Gorsty, I suppose, in the 2 2/3 seasons he's had at Liverpool, when he arrived from Rome back in 2017, I don't think anyone probably quite saw it going as well as it has done. 100 Premier League games, 70 goals, and this is a guy who isn't even a striker.
Yeah, it's incredible. I mean, I think you don't know superlatives for Mohamed Salah, and you mentioned that about no one really expecting him to become as good as he was. I mean, I had the chance to chat to Jurgen Klopp back in September, I think it was, last season or last year, and we had the chat about Salah, and he said, did I think he was going to be that good? No, because nobody did. And we ended that first season with 44 goals, and I think Liverpool knew they were getting a top player, and Klopp's spoken before about how the head of recruitment, Dave Fallows, and the chief scout Barry Hunter kind of convinced Klopp that he was the man to sign in the summer of 2017. But no one at the club, not least Klopp, thought he'd be anywhere near as big a player as he has become. 44 goals in that debut season. I've never known a player to get that much in my lifetime. I think Ian Rush is the only one who's scored more in a season for Liverpool. Then he goes and he only gets 27 the following season, which is paltry return, but scores the crucial one in the Champions League final to help Liverpool win that. And now he's going to be probably going to be Liverpool's top scorer in the year when they finally win the league. So can't speak highly enough of Salah. I think he's an absolute genius of a footballer. He's an absolute superstar off the pitch. And just looking forward to the rest of his years at Anfield for however long he stays, because I think there's no doubt about it. I think for all the big players that Liverpool have in this squad, I think he is the one that stands out for me, that the superstar among the others, and we're privileged to watch him every week, really.
Does he fall into that category, Dan, a bit, I suppose, where the territory Van Dijk's gone into, where he is so consistently superb that we almost take him for granted and forget to shower him in praise that we do with other players who begin to perhaps perform above the general form they usually show?
Yeah, I think there probably is something in that. I mean, people do take it for granted because his consistency, his excellence. I think as well the way that that first season was freakish. 44 goals. It felt like he was scoring every single game. A couple of goals every single game. And it's very easy for some people to actually look at the goal return, the assist return, and say, "Oh well, he's kind of declined a little bit." I think he's a better player now than he was 2 years ago. I think he's just as dangerous on his own, but I think he was smart enough as well to realise that he was going to be a bit of a marked man after that first season. But for the vagaries of fate in Kiev, it could and should have ended in glory with the European Cup. But then he had the kind of not just the trauma of the way that whole panned out there, but also the ensuing World Cup with Egypt in the summer when he wasn't fully fit. There were problems off the field. They were eliminated in the group stages. And I do remember in the first half of last season, it seems a long time ago now, so we're talking like autumn of 2018, and he was scoring a fair few goals, and there was a couple of times when he'd score, he wasn't particularly smiley after, and he looked almost a little bit sullen in the celebrations, and there was a few kind of hot take think pieces. What's the beef with Mohamed Salah? And I think maybe it was just a case of him getting used to this new kind of stage of his career, this new perception, his new place in the football reality and the football world. Also, as well, the level Liverpool were now performing at, the likes of Sadio Mane and Mohamed Salah, but also all around the pitch, there were players who were becoming superstars themselves. Maybe not faced to the same extent that Salah would be, but I could only absolutely endorse what Gorsty said there. It's been an absolute. I've been watching Liverpool since 1984, and it's been a utter privilege to watch Mo Salah. Not just for what he's done on the field, the way he carries himself, I think the cultural aspects that he's brought to the party, the way he's kind of changed the perceptions of Muslim people for some people, I think he's had an enormous impact since he's arrived at Liverpool on and off the field, and I think we're very blessed to have him.
And he's a guy, least we forget as well, that has had to overcome a fair few setbacks, albeit not at Liverpool. But when Liverpool initially wanted to sign him and he goes to Chelsea, that didn't work out. He goes to Italy. And I suppose when he came to Liverpool, of course, there were a lot of question marks over not the sheer volume of goals he could score that he's shown that he can score, but actually, was he even going to be a regular player for a side like Liverpool who wanted to go from reaching the Champions League to actually challenging year in, year out for league titles?
Yeah, I think he was always going to be a regular starter because Liverpool had actually broken their transfer record to land him at 36.9 million, which just a little bit more than they paid for Andy Carroll a few years earlier. So I don't think that was ever in question, but it was a case of, is this going to kind of live up to, is he going to re-show the form he did in Italy with Roma, or is he going to be the player who couldn't cut the mustard at Chelsea? And I think within weeks, I think we knew the answer that we were getting, didn't we, when he kind of just came onto the scene and started sticking them away left and right. And I think too much is made of the fact that people were saying he needs loads of chances to score because he scored 44 in that first season. So if he needs loads of chances, how many was he getting? I certainly don't remember it being that many. I remember a game against Watford where he scored 4 in the snow and they just absolutely couldn't get near him. And that was one of his best performances in a Liverpool shirt. And I remember the Roma semi-final that year, where he was the best player in the world that night. He was absolutely fantastic. So, yeah, I mean, I think he was always going to be a star for Liverpool. It was just a case of, could he kind of propel them to the levels that they wanted to get at? And, alongside many other great players, he's been able to do that. So, yeah, I mean, no qualms about him. He's 28 today, is he? You mentioned his birthday today. So, yeah, he's still got a good few years left at the top of Anfield, hasn't he?
Certainly does. And I suppose crucially as well with him, Dan, is he's a guy who does come up with big moments in big games as well. He's not a flat track bully who just shows up against sides who roll up at Anfield, like Gorst mentioning the likes of Watford, who I think actually are the side he's scored most of his goals against, because he's scored 8, he scored 4 of those in one game. But he's done it against Chelsea, he's done it against Tottenham, he's done it against Rome. It always seems to be, when the big occasion calls, Mohamed Salah is one of the first players to stick his hand up and show that he's there.
Well, absolutely, and I'd say the prime example of that was last June in Madrid, when his final action, the Champions League final the previous year, was to leave the field in tears, and then within 24 seconds or whatever it was, Liverpool have a penalty, and some players might shrink from the task or might look a little bit anxious about it, but he grabbed the ball straight away and cracked it in the back of the net. In the back of the net, no messing, and it was very clear that he really wanted to make amends. I suppose the other goal that always stands out in my mind in that regard, and I think this was a real key goal in the whole kind of Klopp journey, really, was that second leg at the Etihad, the Champions League quarter in 2008, when even though Liverpool had a 3-0 first leg lead, and as I mentioned before, Man City had lost the chance to clinch the title at home to United in the weekend in between. It was tortuous the first 55 odd minutes of that second leg. City scored in the first 2 minutes. They had a perfectly good goal disallowed just before half time, and I was actually I was in the ground, but in with the City fans. That was the only ticket I could get, and it was horrible. You kind of felt if City get a second there, the whole deck of cards could come down. But he was, when the ball broke to him after Sadio Mane burst through kind of the City defence, and he just, this nerveless chip over the goalkeeper, it just showed the absolute temperament that he's got. I mean, I think the other thing I'd want to say as well is that he's got outstanding ability, outstanding mentality, but one thing I think is the real key assets and what some great players have, and is what every team would want. He has this ability to lift the players around him and to make those around him play better themselves. And I think there's been the odd moment here and there where maybe he's a striker. He wants to score. Sometimes he is a bit greedy, and obviously we saw the little flare up between him and Sadio Mane at Burnley back in August. But I don't think there's necessarily too much wrong and a little bit of creative tension there sometimes. And maybe that they are good mates, and ultimately that kind of occasional little flare up will only happen because that sheer desperation and will to win. And ultimately, these are the kind of players that you want in your team. These are the kind of players that for many years Liverpool was too short of, and now they're there in abundance. And I think we're all very glad for that.
No, definitely. And we speak a lot of the time, Gorsty, about Trent reinventing that right back role, creating a new sort of position and functionality for a right fullback. Robertson does so on the left. But I suppose Salah and Mane, since Salah's arrival, that pushed Mane over to the left. And the two of them, we've seen goal-scoring wingers, the likes of Robin and Bale, players coming in off the right onto left foots and scoring a lot of goals in their career. But Mohamed Salah, when you watch him, he plays so much higher than what you'd even just expect a normal winger. He is the guy right on the edge of that defensive line the whole time, albeit in a wide position. He has effectively recreated that role himself as well, has he not?
Yeah, I think the game's changed a bit. I think now the big stars are your wide forwards, aren't they? Or your inside forwards. If you look at the likes of Neymar and Kylian Mbappe at PSG, they kind of operate on the opposite flanks, if you like. Salah and Mane, no different. For years, Messi was on the right side, wasn't he, and allowed to cut in. So I think those types of players are the ones that are in demand more than any other in world football now. And Mohamed Salah is right up there with the best of them. He kind of, as Dan mentioned there about the kind of like the beginning point of last season, he was playing as a number 9 now and again with Roberto Firmino a little withdrawn, and Xherdan Shaqiri was getting the run in the team. But I always thought that Salah's best position was on the right of that front three, and fair play to Sadio Mane, but to be fair to him, because he was Liverpool's best player before Salah arrived on the right of that front three. And it's just adapted seamlessly to playing on the opposite flank to the point where now they're both world-class talents playing in their best positions. You wouldn't dream of swapping either of them now, would you? What they've done for Liverpool, playing on the right and left. So Salah has always been afforded the chance to kind of perform as best he can in his own role, and he's certainly done that from day one, almost, as we say. Didn't take him long to kind of find a stride at Liverpool, and within weeks he was banging them in from all angles.
I suppose what's left to say on Mohamed Salah, Dan, is probably precious little other than what he can actually go on to achieve, because his goal scoring has been at such a volume. As I said before, he's scored the most goals in 100 league games for Liverpool, with 70 from 100 so far. And if you do sort of look at his numbers overall, 91 goals for Liverpool in 144 games. He's won a European Cup. He's going to win a Premier League. He's won 2 Golden Boots already. Could still make that 3 with being on 16 goals when the season was stopped. He will go down, I'm sure, as a Liverpool legend, won't he?
Oh, I don't think there's any question about that. In my eyes, I think he already is, and I'm not sure it would necessarily take this hopefully seemingly inevitable league title to add to that. I think we can only hope that he is as kind of committed and bought into the Klopp project as everybody else seems to be. The new manager signed a new deal just before the start of the new year, taking him to 2024, I think it is, which kind of gives the impression that he's here for the long haul. I think I'm right in saying that Roberto Firmino and Sadio Mane are also, if they're not already 28, turn 28 in the next year or so as well. So we may have touched upon this before. The league coming on the back of the Champions League. I wouldn't have ever said this was a massive concern, but some people might have wondered that would Liverpool felt that they kind of scaled the mountain once they won the league. They've won the European Cup. They've won the league. Where else is there to go? I think we can all be glad and grateful for the fact that the way things happened, the fact that we had the Champions League run and success last year, and obviously the celebrations and the homecoming that Salah and everyone was part of. The fact that they're now, certainly in the immediate future, they're not going to be able to have that this time. I would hope that would kind of invoke in them a desire to go and do it again, to go and repeat the league, repeat what they've done this season, or certainly win the league again, win more trophies, so that they can be part of these incredible communal experiences with the city, and for their own personal and professional pride. I mean, they could look at they might the likes of Salah, Mane, whoever, they might get one big more contract at Real Madrid or Barcelona or Bayern Munich. But would it have this? Would it mean as much as doing it with Liverpool, with these lads, that they've kind of broken this ceiling of trophy success with, they've got a chance to get. In my mind, they're already legends, but they've got the opportunity here to really go on and put themselves in the very, very top bracket. Because of a club like Liverpool, to become the top legends, you need more than one league, you need more than one European Cup, and these lads have the chance to do that, so it's up to them.
Is that the thing as well, Gorsty, that we talk about the front three effectively getting old together, all turning 28, what an age that is, but all sort of being at the same age and reaching sort of their 30s and that stage of their career together without actually sort of just sitting back and thinking, well, they were signed when they were 24, 25 to develop and grow together, and now let's enjoy them for the next 2 or 3 years before thinking, oh, these players will need replacing, because they are elite, top of the game, best in the world in the roles that they play in this side.
Yeah, there's a lot to be said for succession planning, and of course that'll be going on behind the scenes, and they will have options and players you think can eventually fill the void. But I think fans sometimes get a bit too caught up in that, and we've seen that with the Timo Werner fallout. So many people, for example, couple of people I know, a cousin of mine and a mate of mine who haven't really spoken too much about the football this season. When the Werner deal fell through, they got in touch with me and they were saying, "Oh, what's gone on there? How come that hasn't happened?" And I'm thinking, Liverpool are 25 points clear at the top of the Premier League, and he hadn't once messaged me to say like, how good is this team we're able to watch. I think fans put a little bit too much stock in it sometimes. So, look, just enjoy it. These players, Sadio Mane, Roberto Firmino, Mohamed Salah, they're the best attacking players in the world. Does it matter that the 5 years down the line they're not going to be as good as they are now? Just enjoy it while it's here would be my message to supporters, and let the people who are employed to kind of think up succession plans do that, because Liverpool have certainly built up enough credit behind the scenes to go without criticism for now, because let's face it, since 2016 he barely put a foot wrong in the transfer market or on the pitch. So let's just enjoy what we're about to witness and what we have enjoyed for the last 2 years, I say.
Yeah, no, certainly. Dan, you said you started watching the Reds in the mid-'80s. Of course, it was a golden time for the club, winning trophies and cups galore. That well very quickly ran dry, and Liverpool have waited 30 years for a league title to get back to this level. There's no point in sort of wishing away today for tomorrow, is there?
No, I 100% agree with what Gorsty said. I mean, I think it is just it's symptomatic of the modern game of modern society that people are constantly looking one step ahead. Whereas, sometimes you actually just need to enjoy where you are now and appreciate what you've got, because it won't last forever. I mean, yes, it's been 30 years. Basically, the whole of my adolescence and adult life so far, I've been waiting for Liverpool to win the league. It's not like we haven't had anything. There's been 4 European Cup wins, 4 European Cup finals in that time. 2 of them won. Various FA Cup and League Cups and so on. But, the league is Liverpool's bread and butter. It's what we've all been brought up on. It's the truest barometer of greatness to be. Europe's great, but you want to be kings of your own patch. So it does strike me sometimes, and I'm not saying this specifically about Liverpool fans, but some fans in the modern game, they always seem to prioritise transfers like trophies to some people, and I just don't get it. You know what I mean? Don't get me wrong. When I was delighted when we signed Van Dijk. And sometimes transfer news can be exciting sometimes, but I think the cart's got ahead of the horse a little bit sometimes. And this is one of the greatest Liverpool teams that we'll ever see. The football they've played, the consistency they've shown, their approach to the game. I mean, I just happened to notice a couple of days ago that Liverpool are top of the Fair Play League, which listen, if Liverpool were 1 point clear and bottom of the Fair Play League, I wouldn't be that bothered. But the fact that they're 25 points clear at the top of the Premier League and top of the Fair Play League, I think that says something about their approach to the game. And I think that's why, even if obviously, all right, to some people, the word Liverpool will always be like a red rag to a bull, they'll never get us. I do think that in a general sense, there's quite a lot of the wider footballing public have enjoyed this Liverpool team, not just because of all our near misses and maybe it's our time, but because of the way the kind of joie de vivre, the enjoyment that they seem to get with playing with each other, which seems to transmit itself to the supporters. And because ultimately that's what, I've said it a million times, that's what football's about, enjoyment. And it's very easy to get caught up in the business and the pressure and the will to win and all that kind of stuff. But Jurgen Klopp, God bless him, has managed to kind of find the perfect blend of all that. And I'm just really thrilled that finally it looks like things are going to get going again very shortly. And we're going to get this league won and hopefully this can knock on into next season and more successes and more victories for the Reds. That's what we want to see.
Yeah, no, and hopefully, of course, it will be back underway on Sunday away at Goodison, and then the first home game back, Gorsty, against Crystal Palace. And I know you've written something on the site today in terms of Liverpool and Anfield, and we've seen in the NRL, for example, Rugby League and Australia, that cardboard cutouts have been there. There's been crowd noise piped in. Germany have also been doing the cardboard cutouts as well. But Liverpool aren't likely to take that route, are they? What's sort of the position that Liverpool are taking at the moment with Anfield?
Yeah, so we've seen it in the Bundesliga, haven't we, with the cardboard cutouts, and was it Mönchengladbach who could actually pay for you, get your own face in there as part of the stand, but Liverpool have got no plans to do that, and they're not going to be piping in the artificial crowd noise either. I think that would be left to Sky Sports for the people at home to kind of make the most of, and it's one of those things with the crowd noise that you initially expect people to be quite sceptical of it because it's new and it's different and it's not quite true football tradition. But I've seen more people than not kind of say it's a decent little thing to have when you've got no fans there. But Liverpool won't be doing it during the games at Anfield, as I say, it'll be left to Sky. But they are in talks with certain fan groups about possibly decorating Anfield a little bit for that game against Crystal Palace. I mean, there's been no decision made on it yet. I'm told that it might come a little later on this week, but it'd be interesting to see how that kind of manifests itself if they do kind of offer up free rein to certain fans to decorate it Anfield as they wish. Because let's face it, this game against Crystal Palace is going to be behind closed doors, and it's probably going to be the one where Liverpool are crowned champions. So that there's going to have to be some sort of pomp and ceremony, if you like, as best as they can. So it'll be interesting to see how that does happen. But talks are ongoing with that. Hopefully, we might have a little bit more later this week.
Yeah, hope so. And I suppose, Dan, with just how much the Kop and the Liverpool supporters mean to the club, the role that Jurgen Klopp always says that the fans play. When you think of games kicking off at Anfield, it's not just "You'll Never Walk Alone." It's all those banners that are in the Kop. It would be nice to see at least some of them for the potential title win, or just for the remaining games. It is part of the furniture, is it not?
Absolutely. And I would be, I'm not surprised to hear that talks are ongoing. I would be very hopeful that Liverpool do flags. Obviously I'm biased, but I think it's fair to say nobody does flags better than us. I think I remember seeing a thing with the Champions League final. Tottenham I always think a well-supported club. But the vast majority of English clubs have flags that are variants of the St George's Cross or whatever. Liverpool's flags are always very bespoke, very individual, and and sum up the kind of the diversity and the uniqueness of our support. So I would very much expect to see Anfield decorated in that regard. One thing that Klopp said after the friendly against Blackburn kind of struck out to me when he was saying, these are unusual times and we kind of have to create our own atmosphere. And I thought that was very well put. And it's easier said than done. And I think around the city, people will be making their own atmosphere whether they're getting safe together with family or friends or whatever. But I think hopefully in the way that they go about the games, that will create an atmosphere of its own as well. As regards the crowd noise, I mean, I'd back up what Gorsty said there. When this was first being talked about, piped in artificial crowd noise, I remember kind of thinking, I remember thinking it sounded awful, and it just a horrible, phony, plastic kind of idea. But having watched some of the early Bundesliga games without it, and then having watched some of the games with it, it definitely does improve the viewing experience as a TV spectator. Now, I mean, you could argue that it sets a dangerous precedent, and that when fans are back in ground, and if some club feel their fans allowed to start faking it, then you're entering dangerous dystopian type territory there. But I think for the moment, as we're all kind of emerging from this pandemic, if I think I've read somewhere that that Sky or whoever will be making it available, and I think if it's available as and where I'm watching, I will go for it, because it does. It's going to be quite bittersweet, whether it's for those of us who would have ordinarily been in the ground or not. We're thrilled to see football back on. We'll be thrilled to see Liverpool win the league, but obviously it is going to hurt that we're not there. But if you're watching it in almost silence, I think that would make it even worse. So I think we've all got to make the best of this situation, take whatever joy and positivity from it that we can. And, hopefully we'll be celebrating before too long the fact that Liverpool at last are going to win the league.
Well, we do hope that is the case, and hopefully it won't be too long until that is the case. But that's it from us here on this episode of the Blood Red podcast. Of course, we'll be back on Friday to look in depth into the derby, and by then we'll know, of course, if that is the game that Liverpool can secure that elusive Premier League title. My thanks to Paul and Dan, and to you also from listening in or watching in wherever you have joined us. Don't forget, the football is nearly back. Thanks a lot.